last video, I showed you how I made this from a 1958 pattern, and today I'm on a mission to convince you that vintage patterns like these are actually versatile. You should be able to make different garments from one single pattern, which is why I'll be transforming this into this.
This is not a costume. This is not a costume. This is just how I would like to dress every day.
I had never sewn leather before Babylon Leather gifted me one of their DIY bag kits, and safe to say that is no longer the case. Babylon Leather is a Portland-based brand that offers both DIY leather kits and ready-made goods crafted with ethical, traceable materials. What I really enjoy is that the brand is really centered on mindful making, which I experienced firsthand. I was able to make my own Birkin style bag, which quickly became my fiance and I's winding down moment. In fact, I have never seen this man so locked in. All of their kits contain everything necessary to make each bag, even the needles and thread. We've made so much progress and super fast because we've just been going at it, the both of us. In fact, I'm not allowed to keep sewing the bag because my fiance likes it too much. He was like, hey, I must make this bag now. But truthfully, it's really soothing and just a really nice experience. And so far, no huge mistakes, I would say. They also sent me a couple of gifts that I very quickly put to use once the bag was finished. So if making your own bags sounds like fun, head to babylonleather.com and you can use code MOJIT for 5% off on your first order and a free gift for purchases over $50. And now, back to the video. The vision I have for this dress is obviously very close to the original design, otherwise this video would not make any sense. So it's princess seams, a very cinched waist, and a lot of volume at the hip. However, I do not want this project to be just about lengthening the pattern, which could have been the case, if I had not developed the most insane obsession with princess seams. I really enjoyed the front panels of the jacket, which I'm not only going to preserve, I'm also going to replicate them for the back. And that is going to be a real challenge because I need to first create a new back panel and I need to make that back panel work with the original front panels. I also decided to 3D model this one out. I am learning how to 3D model. I'm not really good at it, but I'm really passionate about it. So I already entered my measurements to create my virtual dress form. Say hi to her. And now the next step is to transfer the front panels from the original pattern into the software. Once that was done, I transferred my back base pattern and started working towards the back princess seams, but I needed my pattern making books because I first had to understand the concept and function of princess seams. What I'm gathering from my wonderful pattern making book is that front princess seams are different from back princess seams, which maybe should have been obvious to me. For the back, we're basically just cinching the waist, and we're retracting that amount into 3 different points: the side seam, the back seam, and the princess seam. The front is different because we would be starting from a side dart, but here, the side opening is kind of decorative. I didn't know that. It's interesting. Anyways, I'm gonna keep going. I spent a total of 3 days pattern making, and honestly, just making the smallest and most noticeable adjustments ever. I know that I tend to overthink the pattern making process, and I also know that I will end up having to fix mistakes. So I'm gonna accept my work, and I'm gonna print this version of the pattern. I chose a pinstripe fabric for this project because I have a total of 3 dresses and they're all pretty girly. So I wanted something a bit more serious that I could wear to formal events. My only issue was that my local fabric store only had 2 meters of this fabric, but I was very determined to make it work. And while it first looked like I might not have enough, I brought back the pattern making software and played with the placement until all of the pieces fit. I unfortunately had to remove some length, which was a little bit frustrating. Princess seams were actually harder this time around, but I think it's because of my attitude. I think I took it for granted. I think I did, yeah. For this dress, I wanted to do interfacing, and I wanted to replicate a technique that I saw on Instagram because I thought it was super clever and super duper clean looking. I've done a very similar type of interfacing before, but not quite as clean as this one. But before I go ahead, I need to close the side seams and the back, which will contain a zipper. First try on, and I'm really sorry that every video of mine feels the same. It's too big and I know why. See, I'm in my 3D modeling beginnings, so whatever I'm doing with the software, I always do it with a lot of self-doubt. And the self-doubt shows in 3 critical moments. The first one is when I print my pattern, because I feel like I never want to print patterns because I know they're gonna suck. The second critical moment is when I cut the fabric. That one is the scariest for me. I just deal with a lot of anticipation, anxiety, call it what you want. But I don't like cutting fabric because it feels like a real decisive moment. And the third one is when I'm about to sew and I need to decide seam allowances. Now, when I was doing the 3D modeling, I accounted for 1.5 seam allowance. But then my anxious brain was like, what if you don't fit? So I went with 1. And now, just like in all of my videos, surely, just watch them all and you'll see, shameless promo, but watch them all and you'll see that I deal with this all the time. It's like, can't you just cut the fabric or sew the fabric exactly how you intended to? Apparently I can't. But anyways, so that's what I'm dealing with at the moment. I'm thinking about just redoing all of the seams. The only seams that I actually sewed with the correct seam allowance are the side seams because I noticed, I was like, I feel like this looks a little bit too big. I don't know, maybe I like being comfortable. Maybe this is me like, I don't know, liking comfort. Apart from that, I have to say, it's not that bad. I don't like the length, but I knew that I wouldn't have enough for a maxi skirt. I might do a ruffle, depending on how it looks, because I feel like I really wanted it to be structural and like not wavy. So we'll see whether I'm okay with this length or if I end up hating it. I decided to go for it and redo the princess seams, because if I don't, I know I will regret it. I need to unpress the fabric first. Good morning. Yesterday I re-sewed the front and back princess seams, but it seems like there's more adjusting to do. Now, like I said, I'm very new to 3D modeling, so I was expecting to have to readjust things as I went. However, I am very concerned because I feel like my virtual dress form is not accurate. I entered all of my measurements, but I feel like I might have measured myself completely wrong, and here's why. I had to really take in the back darts, and I mean more than the 0.5 seam allowance that I mentioned yesterday. I had to take in at least 5 centimeters, which is quite a bit. The thing is that when I make the same adjustment on my virtual dress form, the seams, they unravel. Basically, the software is telling me that I've taken in too much and that the garment would be too small for me, which is not happening on the dress. I do have to admit that when I first entered all of my measurements, I did so in quite a rush. And I also was measuring myself. And I feel like you don't want to do that. I feel like you need someone to measure you. So I might just redo the whole process of creating my dress form. On the other hand, I realized quite late last night that I cannot replicate the technique that I saw on Instagram regarding the interfacing because it includes armholes and I'm doing sleeves. have just tried on the dress and I am very satisfied. The new fit is really good. Really, really good. It is now time for the last step of this project, the sleeves. Now, because I was very much inspired by the original sleeve, which is a 2-piece sleeve, I drafted one. The difference between a 1 and a 2-piece sleeve is basically this seam right here. On 1-piece sleeves, this seam right here needs to be cut on the fold, which means that you need this to be a 90-degree angle. And so with 2-piece sleeves, that is not a requirement, and so you can play around with this curvature. The sleeve I drafted is pretty curved because I really enjoy an oversized type of sleeve, but this time around, there's no ruffles, there's no gathering. This right here is a fitted sleeve, I think. It might need some adjusting though. I'm really at the finish line here. I need to hem the sleeves and the hem of the skirt, but it's time for me to think about the length. I knew I wouldn't like the length of the dress from the beginning, but I didn't have enough fabric to make the dress longer. But I was like, it's fine. I'll just have to be okay with the length. And right now, I'm okay with the length, but I'm wondering if there's anything I could do to lengthen the skirt. Specifically, I'm wondering if I should add some sort of ruffling on the hem, just to add a little bit of length and some interest. But I do like the simplicity of it. I'm really enjoying the clean, straight look of this dress, but I don't like the length too much on me. Like, the length is okay. There's nothing inherently bad about this length. It's the length on me. I'm gonna try it on one last time and decide. I decided to go with my gut feeling and use my extra fabric to make this neck accessory instead of adding a ruffle to the skirt. This was one of those projects that remind you that altering pattern takes time, but it's ultimately a very rewarding and instructive process. I've enjoyed my research on princess seams, but I definitively know that had I started from scratch, I would not be where I am today. Having a pattern that fits you well is a gift, and I'm therefore set on reusing my 1958 pattern until my brain is completely void of new ideas. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more, consider subscribing. In the meantime, go make something special. See ya!